Hello everyone, this is Prince Rathaw / Power Balance. Now, yes, I understand that you may have a question. At first glance, why does it say, "What is the Omniverse" in the title? Another question would be, why is the infinity symbol on here? Well, I thought this may have a bit of long coming. I've been watching several videos about a debunk theory between both with the latest death battle between Ben 10 and Green Lantern. Though for some strange reason, I've been watching these debunk videos, and for some strange reason, they don't necessarily explain Omniverse right. And it kind of bugs me because, well, as you may know, the elements of the Omniverse is the name of my team. But you might be asking yourself, what is the Omniverse? Well, that's a little difficult to explain. The most basic thing I could think of to most dumb it down to it, it's basically every universe in one universe. Like every multiverse, every universe has... So let's get down to the basics. Each dimension, right? Each universe has its own dimension. This is called a multiverse. But the Omniverse is where all the dimensions and all the multiverses converge into one multiverse. This is called the Omniverse. This is why a lot of people don't really understand what the Omniverse means. It's because it's got every single universe within it. And by consequence, every multiverse within each single universe. Some of the greater examples I can think of is let's go with Spider-Man. Because remember the little movie that came out, Into the Spider-Verse, if anybody has ever heard or seen of it? One of them is the Prime Spider-Man universe, which just so happens to have Peter Parker as Spider-Man. But then you have several other universes that branch out from it. Not timelines per se, but universes themselves. This not only includes Spider-Gwen, Miles Morales as Spider-Man, but also has some of the more weirder ones, like that anime chick and Spider-Ham. I don't even want to know how that's a thing. Or why he's a pig. Seriously, if you're going to make him a Spider-Man, might as well use a Spider-Monkey. I mean, it just makes more sense, don't it? But I guess I'll digress. So basically, I got the idea of the name not only from this concept, but also Ben 10 Omniverse. If anybody recognizes the Omniverse part of the elements of the Omniverse. Now, while I state that the elements of the Omniverse isn't exactly like the elements of anything else, like elements of nature or elements of harmony, no. The elements of the Omniverse is just a name. But there is a hidden meaning to it. Not in the elements part, but the Omniverse part. This is where the three primal gods come into play. Now, by now you probably have seen just about every single debunk theory about how powerful Ben 10's Alien X form is. Well, to give a granted view, before I state that, you guys should probably watch something on seeing how powerful Alien X is from Ben 10. But you guys do that, then you come back. So basically, the whole motive of the story is the Omniverse was created by three. Not one, not two, but three. And they all and those three are the ones who created the Omniverse. What most people think is that the Omniverse is more like a big old bubble. Like everything that is everything is in that bubble. But that's not the case. The Omniverse itself isn't a map of inside of a bubble. It's more like a tree. Because it has different branches, and each one of those branches have different branches coming off of that one. There's the main branch, and then there's the little branches that come off on that one, on those single branches. And there's more than one main branch on a tree. That is the definition of the Omniverse. It's not a defined space. It's a continuous growing thing, because every single multiverse has more than one multiverse being forged. But the prime universe of that multiverse is stuck in the main area. That's where your story focuses on majority of the time, because it's the prime universe. Like the prime Ben 10 universe, where Ben 10 got the Omnitrix at 10 years old. Then he grew up into, I think he was 17 in Omniverse. I can't remember. And, well, that's how it works. Ben 10, a lot of shows kind of have their own version of this. Marvel, DC, Ben 10, Spider-Man. Well, I guess you could technically count that as Marvel, but I'll continue with that on. And each universe sort of does have sometimes a crossover, which is how two universes will collide into one. Now, you may think this is far-fetched because you know how franchises are. They don't want to cross over stuff because of copyright claims and all that. But occasionally it does happen. Well, if it's within a shared universe, two separate franchises can and will cross over. But you might be thinking of what sort of universes could that happen where two separate franchises can cross over into each other. Well, there's the Hasbro shared universe. Now, while that does sound like everything Hasbro ever made is in one universe, that's not necessarily the case. Two franchises could exist in one universe, but that doesn't necessarily mean that each universe has a different... But it doesn't necessarily mean that those have to exist in the same one. Let's say in one dimension, Transformer exists. But in the very next dimension over, My Little Pony exists. But within the Transformers universe as well, in the background, G.I. Joe exists. And so on and so forth. There's always these itty-bitty little nitpick details that happen between here. For example, there was Ben 10 Generator Rex, that crossover movie that happened on Cartoon Network a few years back. Basically, it took Ben 10, a popular Cartoon Network character, and had a crossover into another dimension with Generator Rex, another popular Cartoon Network character, who he almost even rivaled the things for the ratings for Ben 10 Ultimate Alien or Ben 10 Alien Force. I don't know which one was on at the time, but still. So, their universes were not shared, were not the same, but they both lived in a shared universe. And that universe happens to be Cartoon Network. Now, if you want the most basic and prime example of some of these universes, happen to come from some of the very movies that have actually sparked crossovers. Alien vs. Predator, they both were created by the company Fox Entertainment. That's how that whole crossover got started with. Although, in my personal opinion, it was kindly underrated. Yeah, they didn't really, people didn't really like it. But that's beside the point. Another shared universe where two characters can also meet in happens to be the Hanna-Barbera movie, The Jetsons Meet the Flintstones. Two separate timelines. One is in the future, the other the past. The future comes to the past goes to the future, back to the past, so on and so forth. But they both all have the same art style. In fact, Hanna-Barbera also created several other series that also did this to an extent. From the Laugh Olympics, a cartoon show back on Boomerang at one point in time, where basically every single one of Hanna-Barbera's creations, from Huckleberry Hound to Yogi Bear to even Scooby-Doo for that matter, actually managed to cross over their entire universe into like a Special Olympics for those cartoons. Another interesting aspect is several movies that Hanna-Barbera made with several other icons. Yogi Bear, Wally Gator, Quick Draw McGraw, Boo Boo Bear, and all those characters. Like that one time whenever they made it, when like they were on the Spruce Goose, I believe. And then there was like that Yogi Bear movie where basically he leaves Yellowstone and he's trying to escape for the park ranger, but then next thing you know, all these other characters come in and help him. Like, whatever that Pink Panther guy's name is. Not the Pink Panther. That's a separate character entirely. He's like, exit, stage right, or whatever. I can't remember what that was, who that guy was. But anyway, so there's another understanding. See, so it seems like if universes are under the same company or name, they exist in the multiverse. But those multiverses are connected because they're both on the same channel. Like, the best way I can describe that is quite possibly back in the day when Cartoon Network created like this whole little Cartoon Network city thing. Like if you remember back on Cartoon Network in the older days, back in when Cartoon Network was like the powerhouse of cartoons, basically they created a universe where all the cartoons on Cartoon Network were basically in the same world. They had Johnny Bravo they had all three Ben 10s in that one scene. They had Lumpy Space Princess float across. Then you had Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny. Then you had Johnny Bravo. And then Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends and all on and so forth. That's basically an idea of what an omniverse is. It's basically all the multiverses of all the universes in one spot. But then you might be asking, what does this have to do with the name Elements of the Omniverse? Well, like I said, the adventure teams are more of a shared universe sort of thing, where like multiple different universal characters in the universe come together into a single team. But what if I told you that this was my intent from the beginning? That this universe isn't just a manifestation of several other cartoons that people also love, but is also the manifestation of the Omniverse itself. That's right. This planet, this universe that I created, includes everything created from the adventure teams and thus far. While some of them may not be in the same dimension, it's still in the same multiverse. Therefore, it's within that Omniverse universe. Omni is the word for all, and universe is basically the universe, everything in it. Omniverse is all universe, which includes multiverse. Which, although I won't spoil too much of my idea about it, but the primal gods are technically tied to that universe because it was the very first universe and also the very last. They started creating it, but then when they came back to it, they wanted to try and put certain things that the three primal gods liked from each of the universes into this one. But then after their cosmic fight, the universe then created itself, but everything that the other primal gods created in the multiple branches of the Omniverse manifested into this single universe. That's why this universe is so unstable. But you might be wondering, well then what the heck is an Omniverse isn't real, right? Well, there is something that probably ties this together. There are two prime examples of what an omniverse is. In fact, two that I do believe even exist. One happens to exist within the mind. Yes, our minds. That is an omniverse. Infinite creations within our imagination. Infinite possibilities. We create the outcomes. We create the alternate dimensions. We create the alternate timelines within our mind. In fact, the mind has more neurons than there are stars in the night sky. In fact, if not in the whole galaxy. So let's just say that this whole idea of it being an alternate omniverse that we create ourselves. Why do you think these people seem to be able to create stuff so good and yet it seems to fit that universe. It's because the person who created it created the universe to the last detail. Think of it like Stan Lee being the Watcher, I guess, or the creator. In fact, in the very first Spider-Man series, he met up with the creator Stan Lee, which caused the whole controversy of that to begin with. May God rest his soul, though. And in fact, Disney also did another version of that, where they did the House of Mouse, a classic example of all the cartoons and stuff that Disney made and putting it into one area. But then that's not an omniverse. That's more of a multiverse in one universe. But then what's the second? Well, we happen to be using it right now. That's right, the internet. The internet is able to pull all the media of everything, books, TV, comics, video games, everything, and put it into one source. So by extension, all these universes that are created by these many companies and people who create these things are in fact multiple universes. And by definition, the internet is basically an omniverse, housing all these multiple dimensions, including fan fictions and crossovers that have happened that aren't even canon. But who's to say they aren't canon? They could be canon for all we know, because there is no ties to within these universes that are created on the internet. You're probably wondering what the point of this video was. Well, I don't know. I mean, I just thought I'd get this stuff off my chest. I don't know how many views it's going to get, because it probably just sounds like me rambling. But if you learned something today and probably think that this is correct, then please let me know in the comments. Like the video if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already. My name is Prince Rathlos /Powerbounce. Take your pick. Signing off, and as always, may the wild be with you.